you know that a little mistake like signing a piece of paper could lead you to a deportation tomorrow?
What we're seeing is rampant unlawful detentions.
Is actually eyes above the law, or they're counting on you to not know your rights?
Can and often do legally lie to people.
We have Erin McKee today, co-founder of the Oregon Justice Resource Center.
For every federal thug who thinks they're above the law, for every liar in the Trump administration telling them they're above the law, for every coward in Congress who's not doing something.
If you want a better understanding on immigration law, then this is an episode you must watch. How do you give them hope?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it's incredibly difficult.
Welcome to another episode of the podcast Aquí Entre Nos. Muchísimas gracias a toda la gente que se conecta y que nos escucha. First and foremost, we would like to thank God because we're here together and He gives us the opportunity to be connected and stay connected. This episode will be in English and will have subtitles in Spanish. I would like to thank the Chambers of Commerce for the partnership we have with them, Joanna Parra, Eliora Studios for working with us, and you guys for connecting.
And you know who else? Us.
Hector and Xiomara.
There you go. There you go. And Argelio, who is behind the camera.
Argelio.
Thank you so much, Argelio. The last minute he came. They said that justice is blind, but for the Hispanic Latino community, sometimes it feels like a maze. Sometimes it feels like it is a road filled of traps, and just a small decision can change our entire life of work hard and separate families. And today we are honored to have a truly warrior of civil rights. That she is a mastermind behind training some of the lawyers that are defending Latino community. And when lawyers get out of options, they call her to see what they can do. So here in the Oregon Justice Resource Center offices, we are pleased to have this conversation with the co-founder of this organization, Erin McKee. Thank you so much for being with us.
Welcome.
Thank
and
you.
thank you for having us
thank
and
you.
allow us to interview you.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Can you tell us a little bit about the Oregon Resource Center? How is it born, and what is the story behind the story?
Sure. So the Oregon Justice Resource Center, OJRC, we are the only nonprofit legal service provider in Oregon that works with people at every step of the criminal legal process. We have a variety of projects under one umbrella. We have a civil rights project, women's justice project, youth justice project, Oregon Innocence Project, and then the Immigrant Rights Project. And at the Immigrant Rights Project, what I do on the daily is advise criminal defense attorneys who have non-citizen clients about the immigration consequences of crimes, and help their defense attorneys get to safer resolutions that hopefully won't result in automatic deportation or other negative consequences. So this is constitutionally required advice. We're funded by the state to do it, and that's what we do on the daily. We have been... we co-founded with Bob and Singh, the co-founder, who's currently the executive director, OJRC in 2011, and the Immigrant Rights Project we had in its current incarnation since 2018.
Thank you for all the work that you are doing. The other day, I was reading about all what you do, and I was telling Xiomara, like, wow, there is a lot of things that I don't know that are happening in our state.
That we
Yeah.
have no clue about.
Yeah.
That, of course, we are going to center this conversation about immigration because it's what we need right now, information. But there is a lot of other things that you are doing there about incarceration and all of that. Like, that's very interesting.
Women in jail, injustice happening there.
Yeah.
Youth, like, I like that program, the Youth for Justice. What's
Yeah,
the name?
Youth Justice Project. It's great. Like, we all have our own unique things that we're doing, but we can use each other as resources, and we're really just stronger together, and that's kind of the MO behind us.
What is more common, you were mentioning about those lawyers who are representing non-citizen clients. What is the most common mistake, and how can we avoid that? So when we are not non-citizen, obviously.
Sure, like the most common mistake when working with a defense attorney, or
Yes,
that a
yes.
defense attorney might
Like
make.
if I'm a client, what should I be aware of and avoid for?
Well, right now, for
Yeah.
instance, we're seeing, or we heard that, I had a DUI back in like 1997, and I got an expungement, and federal law cannot see that. How
Yeah.
true is that? And my lawyer told me to plead guilty, and or any other those type of offenses.
So definitely people should be getting individualized advice about their case specifically. Sometimes, defense attorneys or they might just give kind of broad blanket advice, but you cannot do that in immigration because everyone's situation is unique.
It's
And-
case
exactly.
by case,
A
yeah.
crime that might not have really hardly any negative effect for one person might be the deal breaker in another person's case. And I think that common law or common sense does not really apply in immigration law. So a lot of things are like, well, that just doesn't make sense. Yes, that's true. It does not make sense, but that is how the immigration law has come to be. And so you really need to talk to an expert or have your defense attorney talk to an expert. Do not plead to anything without getting full individualized advice.
I see.
So go to your defense attorney, but also if that defense attorney cannot advise you as to what implications you're going to get to your immigration case, then also seek for an immigration attorney.
That's right. And our services are statewide. So anyone who qualifies for public defense services, if you have a state appointed lawyer in criminal proceedings, that lawyer can access our services at no extra cost to them. If if they don't qualify for state funded attorney, they should talk to a private immigration attorney and get that individualized advice. Because you're exactly right. Like an expungement typically doesn't work, right, in immigration proceedings. You'd think it would. You might have a state court judge say, oh, you can honestly say that you've never been arrested, but that's not true when it comes to immigration. So these are the kinds of nuances that you need an expert for.
And is it truth that, like offenses like DUI back in the days were less than nowadays?
So with DUIs or DUIs, that is an offense that right now does not trigger what we call the statutory ground of inadmissibility or deportability. So it's not a per se bar to relief, and it doesn't automatically lead to deportation. It can feel that way because if someone is undocumented, they have no lawful status, they're already removable on that ground, and it's often the arrest for something like a DUI, which typically is not considered a serious crime, that might flag them with ICE, right? And might trigger actual placement into removal proceedings. So it really, when it comes to things like DUIs, DUIs, it really does depend on the administration and the priorities. Congress has tried to make a single DUI or DUI a removable or deportable offense. It hasn't passed yet.
But in the law it is like that, but in the reality we we have the fear of going like to court and to show our faces there. How is the legality of ICE agents camping outside of court and waiting for people who is like, sometimes it's like obviously cases of immigration, but sometimes it's like they are just being witness or they are just in a small
Speeding
case,
tickets.
speeding
Yeah.
tickets, and they just waiting for that. So how legal is that?
So under Oregon law, we do have strong, quote unquote, like sanctuary protections. The Sanctuary Promise Act was a bill that passed in 2021. And one of the provisions prohibits ICE courthouse arrests in the courthouse or going to or from the courthouse. The issue is that if ICE violates that portion of the law, there's not an easy, clean remedy unless there was a state actor involved. So if a clerk at the court unlawfully gave ICE information, then there could be a legal remedy. If they didn't, then it's still prohibited by law, but there's not a civil remedy for the violation. It gets into a very complicated area of state and federal law clashing.
We can say like it's a loophole there.
A little bit. I
Because-
mean, we should not think of sanctuary as a panacea or like something that like.
Yeah, we are safe here.
Right.
100%.
Now,
Right.
is there a difference between a sanctuary state and sanctuary cities within the state?
Yeah, because they
Because-
start like declaring.
Yes,
Yeah.
like cities, and it's like, okay, but the state, you know, it's been a sanctuary state since 2021, correct? And so are there cities that are not, or how does that work?
Yeah, that is such a good question. So Oregon is a quote unquote sanctuary state. We were actually the first state to pass a sanctuary law in 1987. It grew from the problem of racial profiling. It passed with bipartisan support. And at the time, it was limited to prohibiting law enforcement officers from directly engaging in immigration enforcement or helping the federal government do that. We strengthened those laws in 2021. With Trump 1.0, there were more cities and counties and local jurisdictions also declaring themselves like sanctuary cities, sanctuary counties. The truth is that Oregon's sanctuary law is so strong, it's one of the strongest in the country, if not the strongest, that city and county sanctuary policies are not likely to add too much measurable protection, but they can be helpful on really practical levels. One, like you're affirming your community, and sometimes there are state or like local or county policies that maybe as part of being a sanctuary city, we're going to give more funds for something else. So they can connect other little things to it, but it's not going to measurably strengthen your legal rights or protections just because they're already pretty strong.
Okay.
Yeah, and then so there is no law that it cannot be put in place without some organization, some core or anything that it actually push that law. Like for example, what it happens, how we know, like what it happens with ICE agents, and we have seen this. Today is Monday. Saturday was crazy. We have seen all sort of over the law acting of agents.
Yes.
Who is the one who is going to stop that? Who is the one who is going to make sure that they are in the law?
Yeah.
Acting within the law.
Yeah. Well, who keeps us safe? We keep us safe, right? I think that the people power is part of it right now, right? You know, for every federal thug who thinks they're above the law, for every liar in the Trump administration telling them they're above the law, for every coward in Congress who's not doing something, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of more people standing up for community. And there are a lot of amazing lawyers out there making inroads with individual cases and doing the litigation and doing the hard work. And I think it's through litigation that eventually, hopefully, we'll
Do you
see some
think
real
that
changes.
litigation is actually working?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah. So part of it is, for example, in individual cases, what immigration lawyers are finding, both locally and nationally, is that one of the best toolboxes in the toolkit right now are habeas petitions. Someone is detained by ICE. What we're seeing is rampant unlawful detentions. They're being unlawfully detained, and then that gives the hook for an attorney to file a habeas petition in federal district court. So not immigration courts, which are not real courts, but real federal courts, alleging government unlawfully detained my client for these reasons, and they should be immediately released. And we're seeing a lot of success with that. If you want like specifics and great cases to see and examples, I would point folks to the Innovation Law Lab, a local nonprofit legal
Yes, we've heard
law
of them.
firm that's really paving the way for some amazing habeas work.
We interview one of the cases,
Oh, good.
Victor Cruz.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Yes.
was that the firefighter?
No,
No,
Oh,
that
okay.
was the
I think that's
Hillsborough.
the first one who were put on jail
Okay.
for ICE agents.
Yeah.
From Hillsborough.
Oh,
From
from
Hillsborough,
Hillsborough.
yeah.
Okay.
Yes, and they talked about the habeas
Yeah.
petition and how that helped them. But the reality out here is different than inside. And so they're getting pressure to
sign,
their what do you call it?
Self-deportation.
Self-deportation.
Self-removal, I think that's
Or
called.
I
whatever
say
that's.
voluntary departure is
Yes.
often.
And so, I've talked to a few people and they have their work permits valid and they're like, if they take me, I think I'm just going to sign off on that because I don't want to go through that.
Yeah.
And it's by the time you get an attorney and you get somebody to work on your case and get all the documentation, how do you give them hope?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to lie, it's incredibly difficult. Conditions of detention are worse than they've ever been. Detention is increasing at breakneck speed. And for some people, maybe that is the best choice for them. Maybe they are ready for that. But I would definitely say that no one should sign anything that they don't understand 100%. You should talk to a lawyer first because a lot of people do have pathways to relief or status. Or in the case of people who maybe have a work permit, they have maybe what we would call lawful presence, but not lawful status. They've got something in the works. They've got deferred action, whatever it is. Those are great habeas cases, right?
Exactly.
One government agency said, no, you can stay here. Here's your work permit. You can be lawfully present while your application's pending or whatever. And now another government agency is acting like that's nothing, like it doesn't exist, right? That's clearly unlawful. So I think a lot of people do have potential habeas petitions or other forms of relief. And it is incredibly difficult. And ICE might lie, like sign right here and we'll let you out. Sign right here and we'll see your family. But really you might be signing something you don't understand and you'll be on an airplane very quickly.
You're an expert on civil rights, and I have a question that is in my mind. There is a couple of laws on civil rights that says that you cannot be discriminated based on race and color and all of that. How is that aligned with the decision of like kind of targeting people who have accent?
Because
or
right now
color
it's
or-
very obvious that it's
Yeah.
based on.
The racial profiling that's happening right now is blatant and it's appalling. And unfortunately, across the board, there's always been the understanding that racial profiling violates the Constitution, right?
Yes.
Correct.
But we did have a recent order from the Supreme Court. So this was an order that came out of some litigation from California and that increased enforcement actions there. I won't get into all the details, but only to make clear that it wasn't a precedential decision, so it wasn't an opinion that technically has legal precedent, but it was an order where the Supreme Court found, and it was authored by Kavanaugh, that that race or ethnicity, the fact that someone has an accent and maybe has a low paying job, they're a day laborer, that all of these factors taken together may be sufficient to give rise to what we call reasonable suspicion. So this goes for ICE officers or law enforcement, police, whatever. In order to briefly detain someone, even for questioning, so not a full arrest, but maybe police want to stop you and question you further, they have to have reasonable suspicion. And it has to be something specific and articulable. about that person, that situation where they think, oh, this person is removable from the United States, or this person has committed a crime if it's a cop. Historically, all other courts have found that race and ethnicity can't be one of those factors that support reasonable suspicion to stop someone briefly. But Kavanaugh in the order said, oh yeah, actually it can. So we're calling those Kavanaugh stops now. When people are being stopped just because of the way they look or sound. Unfortunately, in some cases, that might pass muster with the Supreme Court. I think, at the end of the day, there's no final precedent opinion on it, so let's see where it goes. But we are seeing it, and it has gotten the green light from the Supreme Court at this point, unfortunately.
And now, they have the power, or whatever they call it, to read your plates and know the name of the person that it's driving.
Yeah.
So they still pull you over. They still they know your name. I don't know if they have access to a record, but on Know Your Rights, I know that you do the Know Your Rights classes, or master classes. But at that point, how would you talk to them? Because for me, it's like, if I ever get stopped, I wanna argue with them. I wanna say,
Somebody
dude,
want to argue with her.
I'm like, dude, you have the power to run my plates. You know who I am. You know I have no criminal record, and I am not whatever you want to call it. Like, why are you stopping me?
Yeah.
And I see that some people, it works for some people, but I think you have to have the guts to talk to them like that. And then they go away. They walk away. They're like, dude, I'm a citizen. I am going to work. Leave me alone.
Yes.
And, you have no right to be stopping me because I am on my way to work. And for some other ones, they're like, oh, here's my green card, here's my work permit, and then they just get so angry, and then you get confused because you're like, should I talk? Should I not talk? What should I do? And then there's this thing that Hector was telling me. It's like, if you were born here, there's nothing that says that you have to carry your passport everywhere. And so, how do you deal with this?
There's a lot going on in that question.
Yes.
It's just a podcast with that question.
So I will say upfront, like, as far as ICE being able to scan and get information from license plates and things like that, that's totally true. We have learned that, right? That they are using very advanced surveillance technology to get that kind of information about people. Of course, ICE is a federal law enforcement agency, so they have access to a lot of the same databases that the FBI or other federal law enforcement agencies would have. So they are collecting a lot more information about people and finding people that way. They also are using more facial recognition technology, like an app called Mobile Fortify, that they're using to capture people's faces and try to connect them to immigration records, see if they've got any kind of, prior removal order or criminal record or something that would make them more of a priority for detention. I mean, there are no priorities anymore, right? It's just numbers at this point. So I just want to validate, but that is absolutely happening. If you are stopped, and then your question is what do I say? Really, I do give a lot of Know Your Rights trainings, and, we try to boil it down to don't trust them, don't talk to them, don't consent to a search. If you can't remember anything else, remember these things. But the truth is, in the immigration situation, because each individual is going to have their own unique immigration case. My colleague calls it everyone fits into a different immigration bucket. And the gold standard really is to develop your own personalized know your rights plan. Sit down and really talk to an attorney if you can. If not, there are some good self-help resources and tools to kind of help you think through what you're going to do and say if you are arrested by ICE. And I would point people to the Oregon for All website for some of those resources. But really thinking about it in advance and visualizing what you're going to say and do in that moment can truly help, because those moments are scary. Or maybe you're like super brave, like you're over here and like you're ready and you know what you're going to say. I think a lot of people aren't, right?
No, I'm not. Trust me.
Oh no, I wouldn't mess with you.
then there's the other side. Like if they stop you, right? So you mentioned that they need a probable cause to stop you. That's the first step. So they come to you and they say like, well, show me your papers, right? And then you are like, no, I don't want to show you my papers. I'm a citizen. The law doesn't make me to have my papers with me. And then they escalate immediately the situation. They break the window. They
And
turn
we've seen
hard.
that.
We are seeing
I
it.
mean, we've seen
I
worse
think
than that.
first and foremost, prioritize safety. And I don't know if this is not like per se legal advice, but like if you're in that kind of interaction, do whatever you need to do to ground yourself and, use your gut, right? Who is this person in front of me? Some of these agents are clearly no clear disregard for the law, right? Yeah. Some of the local ICE officers, I think, are not happy about what they're having to do. You don't know who you're going to get these days. And so to ground, figure out what the vibe is, prioritize your own safety. The safest route is, is to not talk, right? To say, I'm going to remain silent and I want to talk to an attorney. If you're a U.S. citizen, that's a good exception to that rule. So like I was saying, we kind of have these rules we talk about and know your rights. The first is don't trust, not because officers might individually be bad people, but because they can and often do legally lie to people to get information or to get them to move into a space where they can arrest them. So if you think that ICE is after you or friends and family and you don't want to help them, don't trust them. Don't talk to them. I'm going to remain silent and I want to talk to my attorney. There are exceptions in the immigration context. So perfect exception. If ICE detains you and they're arresting you and they're indicating they're arresting you because they think you're deportable, not for a crime, that's a good time to get patriotic, is what I always say, right? I'm a U.S. citizen. It's unfortunate that many citizens probably it's a good idea to carry proof of citizenship with you if you have it. I mean, it's like breaks my heart to have to advise that, but it's kind of practical advice. So if you have a passport card, that's easy to carry in your wallet. I get nervous carrying my passport. I don't want to lose it. I think a copy of the face page of your passport is sufficient. If you're more responsible than me and you're good with your passport,
especially
you can carry that.
Your kids now, they have accent. Even if they were born here.
Yeah.
I have a son. He's 14 years old and he's got this accent. I don't know where he gets it from. But he has his little Mexican accent.
Yeah.
And maybe because he loves Mexican music.
I love it.
And he's dark skinned. And it's so funny because my daughter, I was training them because I said, if ICE gets to stop me, this is what you guys are going to do. And then my daughter is like, well, more likely he's going to get stopped or he's going to, because he's dumb. But, even the kids that were born here, they're dark skinned, they have accent, and it's like they have to carry around their passports.
Yeah, it's awful. It's un-American. It should not be happening. It's heartbreaking that it is. Yes. But, that is a case where maybe you would want to say something. You don't have to, right? You do have the right to remain silent. And I recommend if you choose to do that, saying it clearly, I'm going to remain silent and I want to talk to an attorney. And that's it. They shouldn't question you anymore. They might, but you do not have to answer any questions. If you have some other kind of immigration status, maybe you're not a U.S. citizen, but you have a green card, you have some other form of immigration status, I do advise, technically the law does require you to carry what's called proof of registration with you. So if you have your green card, you're legally required to carry it. If you're 18 or over, it's actually a federal misdemeanor not to, so you should be carrying that. And keep copies somewhere else that are safe and accessible for your emergency contacts. If you are detained, ICE might confiscate your documents, so you want to make sure you have copies somewhere else. But for people in those in between undocumented and U.S. citizen, right, typically I would, if it was my client, I would typically advise they're going to be detained by ICE, saying what their status is, showing their status. ICE might ignore it, but now they've made a record that they are telling ICE, like, listen, actually, no, you can't deport me. And if ICE, or, they can't detain me. If ICE continues, then now I'm going to remain silent and I want to talk to my attorney. So there are some limited things you might want to say if you're being detained by ICE, but don't say too much, right? You can always say more later. It's best to do exactly what you've done, right? Which is like plan with your family what might happen in that moment. Think about how you're going to respond and what steps your family will take.
What about the house? What about if they come and knock my house? Are they allowed to get in my house without an order? Are they allowed? What is that process?
Especially
there?
a few days ago, there was something on the news that said that I don't know who that now ICE is allowed
And
to
here,
get into the
not too long ago here in Portland, they just broke a door and get inside, and
But
they
now
claimed they were
in
looking
the
for somebody.
news,
Yeah,
they
so-
said that ICE was allowed to enter the house. And, people are nervous because they're like, oh, now they don't need a judicial warrant to get into a house.
This is one of, yes. So no, ICE, any law enforcement officer, they cannot enter a private space, and your home is the quintessential private space. So they cannot enter your home without a judicial warrant signed by a judge or an exception to the warrant requirement. And the most common exception is consent. So practically speaking, you should think about it as they are not legally allowed to enter your house unless they have a warrant signed by a judge or consent to enter. Now, starting in, I think for me, one of the inflection points was there was a apartment raid in Chicago where ICE officers or federal agents busted into an apartment building. They were dragging people out, and it was so clearly unlawful and in violation of the Fourth Amendment. This is the part of the Constitution where this right comes from, to be free from unreasonable searches or seizures. Seizure just means detention, arrest, and search includes like trying to search your person or trying to enter your home. So we did recently learn, and only through an ICE whistleblower, that ICE, at least starting in the summer, I believe, has been training new recruits and telling them that they only need an administrative warrant to enter someone's home. At least in the case, this particular internal memo was specific to people who have prior removal or deportation orders. But then there was a footnote that really made it clear that they plan to expand this, or that this rationale could be expanded to essentially anyone who's not a U.S. citizen. We think that they know that that's totally unlawful because of the skulky way they went about it. According to the ICE whistleblower, trainees were allowed to read the internal memo but not keep a copy. They couldn't take notes. This was not a memo that was publicized. And it wasn't publicized because it's so clearly unlawful. It's so clearly in violation of the Fourth Amendment that it's mind-blowing that any attorney would put their name on something like that. This is beyond a novel interpretation of the Fourth Amendment, in my opinion. It's just plain wrong. And I think unfortunately, we'll have to wait for the courts potentially to see what happens with that. But I mean, the short answer is they might act like they don't need a real warrant. They might use one of their little ICE warrants. They're called administrative warrants. They're basically, those are created by ICE, right? Not signed by anyone else. It's like, dear me, you can do whatever you want, signed me, right? Like that's essentially what an ICE warrant is. created by ICE. So they do not have any power of law outside of their own regulations and rules that they are supposed to be following. So yeah, I get really worked up over this.
The regular people, how can they prepare for that? How can they act if somebody get into knock their homes and trying to like say, hey, I'm biased and I have to get there.
Say loudly and clearly,
I do not
consent. You cannot enter my home. I do not consent. And then, frankly, stand back. Like, don't be by the door because they might break down your door.
And record. Because nowadays recording is a key.
It's true. I mean, think of what the government could try to get away with if there weren't people out there
I mean, the two
filming.
People that just murder.
Yeah.
You know, if it wasn't for all these people filming every angle.
And then immediately came in the media and start telling like, oh, they were terrorists, they were like doing
So
this
is
that.
another kind of recent development or information that we're learning or figuring out is that it seems that some of the federal agents are working under the instruction or understanding that even just filming them constitutes impeding law enforcement. And impeding law enforcement is a federal felony, 18 U.S.C. 111, assaulting, impeding, etc., law enforcement. And if even a U.S. citizen commits a federal felony in ICE's presence, ICE can legally arrest that U.S. citizen, right, for that federal crime. It seems that this is the understanding they're working under and why they are claiming that you can't film, you're impeding, give me that. And then if they don't stop filming, they're arresting them. It's bogus. That is not impeding. You have a First Amendment right to film law enforcement as long as you're not actually impeding, right?
Yeah,
you do it from a safe distance. In Oregon, you do it openly, etc.
We have quite a few people in the community that follows them and record them and record live videos to advise the community here they're here, be aware of it. And recently I saw this girl and she's always out and about, just to let the community know where they're at. And she went out of the country for a vacation. And when she came back, she said that her passport, there was a note in a flag on her passport. I cannot remember the word she said that they told her.
Domestic terrorist?
Yeah, it was agitator.
Agitator, yes. And she is from here.
Gosh.
She's an American.
Yeah.
She's Caucasian.
Yeah. I guess that's the other part of this. Like, ICE agents or federal agents need to work in understanding that, right, that's impeding. And then we're seeing more instances, I don't know locally necessarily, of federal agents then filming. Well, we saw it with Renee Good, right? In one of the videos, you could see one of the ICE officers filming her. And it seems to be that, then they're filming people who are legally observing and then labeling them as domestic terrorists. And then what that means, who knows, right? Like, they're just making things up at this point. Yes. But it is going to have real world consequences. The truth is, we're seeing, obviously, a lot of human suffering, deaths, violence, outright, violations of rights, clearly. And I'm hopeful we'll get to a different stage in history that we will move and improve beyond this, but it's going to take time.
This is my opinion. This is not a legal opinion, but I think that 70% of this part of the problem resolved if the agents use body cameras. If they are obligated to use that and then release them, police, they will be not doing what they're doing right now.
I mean, that's a good suggestion. Congress has the power to do that.
Yeah, why don't Anyway,
Wide open.
anyway, let's not get into that conversation because it's going to be a lot to talk. So finally, we're talking. We're almost getting on the end,
Okay.
and we are like so grateful to have you and to all the information you have. Oh my gosh, you are so knowledgeable. Um, how can we prepare? How if I have my family, I am
Kids.
afraid. I have kids. I have car, a house. How? What is your advice for a household to get prepared for the worst?
Especially after we saw this child, 5-year-old child that was taken, and after we heard, the neighbors, all of their conversation, and it was like there was no need for them
Yeah.
to take him.
Yeah. So there are kind of two different angles to that question, or two different avenues. One is like, how do you prepare for the immigration stuff, right? And like typically I would say, talk to an immigration attorney first if you can, develop your own know your rights plan, figure out what you might be eligible for, if anything, like get those immigration legal ducks in an order. But then the other part of that question is really about the practical real world consequences of being detained. What's going to happen to my kids? What's going to happen to my property? All of those that are outside of the immigration legal context, but certainly are important things to think about.
Yes.
If people want to use a self-help tool, Oregon Law Center and Latino Network have developed some nice family preparedness plans that talk about, when you might want to draft a power of attorney, what you might want to do. Those are good self-help plans. You can certainly consult with your own lawyer. Immigration lawyers aren't necessarily going to be experts in things like power of attorney and child custody, so you might need to find a different type of lawyer for that, or use these self-help packets, which are really, really a great resource. And Oregon Law Center generally is a great resource for folks.
Okay.
We're gonna list it all the resources that she's mentioned here on if you're on YouTube or in any of the platforms. So we're gonna list it all.
And
the
I'm very
resources.
familiar with the Oregon Law Center packet through Latino Network.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And one question, or actually, do you have any other question? Because I have kind of an inspirational question.
All right. For those who doesn't have resources for a lawyer,
Yeah.
they get detained or they need to, have questions. Mostly get detained, and they don't have resources to go for an immigration lawyer. Is there a pathway to have access to a lawyer, and how your organization helps?
Yeah, so Oregon is pretty unique in that we do have what's called kind of a universal representation program, state-funded immigration attorneys for certain low-income Oregonian residents. So you have to be below 200% of the federal poverty guideline and an Oregon resident to qualify for the services. The program is called Equity Corps of Oregon, or ECHO is what we call it. And they prioritize people in removal proceedings. They can assist with a variety of immigration benefits. If someone does not have an active immigration case, like they don't have an immediate need for an immigration attorney, they're not in deportation proceedings, they don't have something to apply for right now, but they are concerned about being detained, what they can do is enroll in ECHO services. So you can go to their website or call their hotline. ECHO will collect basic information about the person, and then if that individual is detained and the Rapid Response Network in Oregon is activated, means someone's detained, Rapid Response is activated, attorney goes down there. The attorneys in the Rapid Response Network are from the ECHO pool of attorneys. So the attorney coming down to assist that person as close to the moment of detention as possible will have some basic information about the individual, which can be critical in advocating for that person in the moment and potentially preventing them from being transferred even out of Oregon. So ECHO is the first place I would go for someone looking for.
So it's kind of creating a folder already for a file for that person.
Exactly.
So they already know.
Yeah.
And how is that activated? I mean, You have to call. You have to call somebody. How is that activated?
So the Rapid Response Network is coordinated by the Portland Immigrant Rights Coalition, or PIRC. So you've probably seen their signs and their phone number and around town. They are training lots of everyday citizens on how to recognize ICE and how to use the hot. I mean, anyone can use the hotline, right? So what happens is if someone sees, observes suspected ICE activity, you call the Rapid Response Network. PIRC will send a volunteer to that location to verify whether it is in fact ICE. If it is, then the Rapid Response Network of Immigration Attorneys is activated, and an attorney will get to the person as soon as possible to advocate.
Thank you.
Great. Well, I have a question, and I think I've said it in a couple of past podcasts that I think this time is very, very critical for our youth and our kids, and I think it's gonna push them to fight for our people and to be out there.
Yeah.
So I want to hear, how did you get into law school, or what make you be in this route?
Yeah.
Because some kids will listen to this podcast and we need more lawyers.
We do. We
do.
need good lawyers who are committed to real justice. And so I would encourage any young folks or students who are considering law school. I'm always happy to talk to people too, especially if you're considering immigration law. Talk to lawyers, talk about what they do, why they love their job, what's hard about their job, things like that. So I love your question. As far as what led me to this path, it was a more long winding path, we'll say, to law school. But when I was in undergrad, I did more human rights type work and women's rights work, and I spent some time in India working for a feminist human rights organization, and it was just the best work ever. Like knowing that every day you're working with people like here at OJRC who are all committed to a cause. It is incredibly empowering, and to know that we have opportunities. Like we do have the legal landscape here to do great things. America does have a lot of potential. We are not meeting that potential right now, but it is up to the youth eventually, right?
Right.
To shape us up and get there. So I think, and just working with a lot of people who are not U.S. citizens, and frankly, from a political standpoint, the U.S. government has made a lot of missteps internationally, in my opinion. And I think we actually owe it to a lot of people from different countries who perhaps we've really have had a negative impact on because of our foreign policy, our economic policy. I think we're all in this together, and that's the attitude we need to move forward with.
Thank you. Yeah, my daughter asked me like a few months ago, she's like, I think I like, law school, but do I have to send people to jail? And I said, no, there's different, ¿cómo se dice? Ramas?
Yeah, there are so many different routes, so many different paths.
Yes, and we talked about immigration law and all of this. And that's why I said, it's important for you to get that message out there to our younger community. So if they feel like that's a call, don't let the money to stop you. There are grants, there are scholarships, and if anything, just get that loan.
Yeah. The loans can be tricky, but but no, I do agree. Like you can't buy the kind of satisfaction and the kind of I'm just so honored. I'm so honored to be able to work with the people I do. I don't do a direct representation anymore, but I love working with people from all over and being a part of like this incredibly hard journey to immigrate to the United States. Like people who can do that successfully, that is no small feat.
And we feel so honored too that, people like you And I've met so many other lawyers that do such a great job in
And they're
immigration.
passionate about it.
They're so passionate.
Oh, you don't do immigration law if you're not I mean,
Yeah.
we're not, even private immigration lawyers are not in it for the
that's
money.
end.
Yes,
I
the
think the lawyers are going to
stories
be
and-
key to change the path in where we are
I
right
do.
now.
I agree.
And sometimes, they say, well, they're expensive and it's about the money. But what goes behind the scenes with the lawyers and the stories and everything they have to put together, it's amazing. It's a
Yeah.
lot of work. And I work with an attorney that did immigration cases for many years. And I was just amazed that, people will come to the office and will think he was racist. And he wasn't. He was like the most loving attorney and he loved his job. It was amazing. So thank you for everything you do for our community and for, everyone out there.
Thank you for
really
having me.
Thank you.
Thank you
appreciate
for
it.
all you do. Like, you're out there really doing it. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Well, until the next episode,
There you
thank
go.
you so much for having us here at your office. And thank you for all the explanation. I know it was a lot, but I think
It's gonna be helpful, yeah.
we could do another episode, and you're so
I would love to do
knowledgeable.
an episode about women's situation
Yeah.
on jail.
Yeah.
That's like I didn't know what it was happening out there. Like,
So we'll put a little bit of what do you call, like a history or
yeah,
what you guys
Blurb.
Yeah, what you guys do. Do you guys do videos or anything on social media to inform the community?
My comms director would kill me if I didn't mention. Yes, we do have a social media presence. We're on Blue Sky. I think we're on
Okay.
Instagram. You can sign up for our newsletter. Is a good way to get like updates on our real work that we're doing.
Okay, so we'll make sure we get that and we will put it under this video right here. So thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
so
you.
much.
Yeah, thank
It's a
you.
pleasure. Next week.
Thank you.
Oh man, such good questions. Good
Yes,
job.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was fun. I mean, I really enjoyed that actually. Good conversation.